too much time to do this review here today, but that's okay. I don't need a whole lot of time. This deck really hasn't changed much. Even with the new Master Rule and everything, it's very good. Even with the current format, I find that I can still play really good against the current meta decks and everything, Eldritch and Endymion even. I still do okay. Um, Adamancipator is another story, but we'll get to that another time. But for most part, the deck is very good. It's very consistent. I very rarely will I brick. It does happen. You do brick. Nothing. No deck is brick proof, but you know, it's a Blue Eyes deck. It's really fun to play. This is probably one of my favorite decks to pilot. Um, just because of the nostalgia behind, not just because of the nostalgia behind it, but just because like it's really great to just be able to slap one of these, or you know the big max and the baby max down too, if you can get them both out in the same turn, or multiples of them out in the same turn. It's just fun to slam them down and be like, okay, now what? Especially if you're going up against um, a Trickstar variant, which that's they've always been. I love running spell heavy decks, so they've always been the bane of my existence. But as a returning Yu-Gi-Oh player, but um, usually I don't have a problem with decks like that with the Blue Eyes. But anyway, that's enough ranting. I'm just gonna go get right into it. I did used to have the physical cards for this deck. Unfortunately, I do not anymore. But if I rebuild it, I will do a physical deck review as well in the future. But for now, I just have the virtuals, which is good because it's free to play. You don't have to pay anything for these. So, and if you've never checked out Dueling Nexus, highly recommend you do. I'm not being paid to do this, but it's great. I don't have a Windows PC, so I'm kind of limited to what my options are. I can't do Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro, and I can't play Duel Links on Steam or anything like that, unfortunately, so this is great for me. But anyway, I'll get right into it. So naturally, you're going to start out with three Blue Eyes. This is not optional. You have to have 3 Blue Eyes. These are essentially just fodder for your Chaos form, and for any other kind of extra deck play that you might want to do. They're ritual fodder mostly for your Chaos forms down here. Also, I run one alternative if I have to out something that isn't protected by targeting, then that's always good. It leaves me open to at least one removal there, and then they're really good going for the Czar board, but I'll get into that later. Um, and this is a going second deck, also. Um, but going second deck, I can't have a going second deck in this format without having some kind of Kaiju or Lava Golem removal. This is great because if I'm going up against Salamangreat, or if I'm going up against even Fur Hires too, they can just spam the board with so many monsters if I want to have, and they can get negates too, so that could really shut down my ritual plays. So if I need to remove those, I got an out right there, and +2 if I leave it on the board, it does damage. So endgame, that could also be really important. The one alternative, it's alternative white. Y'all, it's pretty standard. It gives you a removal, you show Blue Eyes, and you special summon it to the field. The only thing is, if you use this effect, you cannot attack that turn, so that's something to consider. But really, you're just going to want to use it for these down here, your extra deck, the Galaxy Eyes. If you do not need to use the extra deck. There is an extra deck, y'all, but it's just not required. You do not need an extra deck to run this deck. Really, if anything, when you load the game up and your opponent sees 15-card extra deck, they're probably going to think that you're running something in the current format, in the meta format. So that might make them play a little bit differently, throw them off guard. So intimidating thing, really. Also, you use it for Zarborg too. His effect here. I'm going to go into him right now. So if you have a Blue Eyes on the field, or even if you have a Ritual monster on the field, if it's a level 8. Or a tribute summon monster. You can tribute this guy. You can spend him on the field, tribute a monster. If it's a light monster, then you can banish cards from your extra deck up to 8, I think, and then you can do the same for your opponent. You get to choose how many and what cards from your opponent's extra deck get sent to the graveyard. This is very useful. I found going up against heroes, this is incredibly useful. This is also really good if you can get this early on. If your opponent is trying to go for a true King of all calamities play, and you can get this out soon, you can just go ahead and get them all out of their extra deck, so that's not going to be a problem later. Oh God, I can't think of the other one. I was trying to, the other boss monster. I can't think of now. It's escaping me. Oh no. Oh my God. Okay, I'll come back to that one later. But I'm gonna move forward. I'm not gonna spend too much time trying to think. I'm having one of those days, y'all. I can't think. So oh my God, what is it? Oh my God. Anyway, I'll move on. I'll come back to it later. I know I'll remember it later. And moving on to the incantation part of the deck. So I do run the incantation engine in this deck. It makes the deck. It makes it so consistent. I run 2 Talismandra. Um, this is great. You start out with a ritual monster in your hand. You can reveal it to your opponent, and then you can special summon from your deck any other incantation monster except for Talismandra. So this is good if you have ritual monsters, but you don't have a ritual spell. You want to get them on the field, so you can reveal, say, your Baby Max or your Big Max here, and you can special summon your Candle over here, which when this is special summoned from the deck, it'll let you get access to your Chaos form or your Advanced Ritual Art, which you will probably want to run both. Or if you're end game out of resources, you use these 2 already, you got plenty of incantations, you can use your Incantation Celebration. It works. You can ritual summon any ritual monster. This works for any of the ritual monsters that I have in this deck, and I'll get to that later. But very useful. And I also run 1 Bookstone, so if I already used Chaos form, or my last Chaos form, but I need it again, or I need another Advanced Ritual Art, and I already used it 2, but I still have a Blue Eyes in the deck, I could recur the Ritual spell right to my hand using Bookstone if it's special summoned. And then I also run 2 Candle and 1 Pencil Plume for the same reason, except it's for the monster in the graveyard instead of the spell card. And then I also run 2 of the Chalice Slimes. The Chalice Slimes are great. I very rarely ever have to actually ritual summon the Chalice Slimes, which is fine. If you do, that's okay. It could come in. It just depends if you need the effect or not, but really I usually just activate it to get my incantations from the deck to the field and then use their effects, depending on which one I need and what card I need to grab for my deck at the time. So that's it for the incantation engine. It's very good, and naturally you can run the incantation engine not just with this deck, but like with Necroz and I ran across a Necroz Cyber Blader deck, which was amazing. I lost that that one, but yeah, it's not just limited to this deck. You could use the incantation engine in any ritual deck. I saw an incantation Hungry Burger deck also, which was hilarious, but it was fun to play against. But anyway, going back here, I also run 3 Manju, sorry, Manju, not Manju of 10,000 hands. Great card, normal, flip summoned, it's oldie but goodie. Ritual monster or ritual spell from your deck, you choose, whatever you need. Also comes in handy too, like if I get to ritual summon 1 of each of these, and my opponent doesn't have any other monsters on the field, if I'm just going to go for a win, that's 8,400, those 2, plus Manju, so that's an OTK. So that's always good. Moving on, naturally, you got to run 3 of the Chaos Max, the Big Max here. This guy is your win condition right here. Ideally, you want to see him alongside Baby Max, the 2 Maxes together, for maximum damage, if you will. Sorry for my puns, they're terrible. That being said, I do run 2 Baby Max. These guys are great. So if you get both of them on the field, if you use Blue Eyes White Dragon to ritual summon, which I hope you do for both of these, if you can't, I understand, but your win condition here is if you have this, which has been ritual summoned with your Blue Eyes White Dragon, either from deck or graveyard, you can swing into your opponent's monster, its effect will activate, and then all your opponent's monsters' attack and defense becomes 0, and they all get switched to defense position. This is good setting up for an OTK. uh, because not only will this give it 3,000 damage because it does piercing anyway, the Chaos Max also, if your opponent has another defense position monster, it's sitting at 0. This does double piercing, so that's an automatic 8,000 attack, so usually that'll win the game right there. Those two together are just, if you can get these two together and attack successfully, it's usually game over. Moving on to the other ritual monster, I run one Amor, Amor Factor Pain. This guy is amazing. This is probably my best going first card, because if I can get this on the field, my opponent cannot enter battle phase. They cannot attack me that turn, so they basically have to skip their main phase 1 and their battle phase, and then they have to jump right into main phase 2. So if they were hoping to set up an FTK or OTK, then they will not be able to. It's completely shut off. Also, Fusion, Synchro, and Xyz monsters that are face up on the field, their effects are negated. So if your opponent wants to do any kind of degenerative Xyz plays, you all know which ones I'm talking about, then its effects are going to be negated, and that kind of spares you from the worst that your opponent can probably throw your way, unless they're just going to be link summoning like crazy. This deck doesn't offer much protection against links. Links can't even go to defense position, so that really kind of shuts off the win condition from Chaos Max. But the good news is if you have Baby Max and Chaos Max on the field, you can just kind of blanket your, you can just kind of use the blanket effect from Baby Max here, make their attack and defense 0 anyway, and then just swing it for 4. Usually it's good enough to do a lot of damage or win if it's late game. And then Creature Swap. This is another win condition here. I run 2 Creature Swaps. It's such a good card. So ideally, if you have an incantation monster on the field, say I have Talismandra on the field, what you do is, if you're going second, ideally, your opponent has a card on the field. It doesn't matter what it is. As long as they don't negate your plays, if you can get Chaos Max and still have a Talismandra or any incantation card in the field in defense position, slap that down, pick the pick the incantation card. Your opponent has to pick a card. They will get this in defense position, and then you just automatically swing into it for 8,000. That's another win condition right there. They can't do anything unless they can stop the attack or stop them from getting the monster at all. There's nothing that they can do about it, and it's an automatic win condition. Sometimes, even if you're going up against, if you can bait the Red Eyes Dragoon, which I've played on here before, that was usually the win condition for the Red Eyes Dragoon. That's such a hard card to get rid of, but you can do it you can beat that deck with this deck. It is possible. Going ahead, I run 3 Trade-In. Trade-In is just a great card. If I happen to open with multiple of these, if I open with a hand that consists of like 2 or more Blue Eyes, a Lava Golem, and then Zarborg, and then I have 1 or 2 of these, then it's just going to be, I'll just be able to draw. That's great. I'll be able to get something. Not always so lucky, but hey, it gives you options. It's essentially a discard 1 and pot of greed. Melody, I run 2 Melody, it's good, so if I open with other high-level monsters or, and I don't get the rituals that I want, say that I open with the spells and then I don't have any of those, this is good because every Blue Eyes monster in this deck is searchable with this card. The vanillas and the rituals and alternative, yeah, yeah, no, never mind. I forgot it was 50 off. I'm stupid. I was going to say, oh yeah, Amphorector too. No. Just the Blue Eyes cards. Preparation of Rites. Preparation of Rites is good. It just lets you get your Chalice Slime. So if you don't have any resources at all, this can help you get access to some right here. And I run 2 of those also. I already did the ritual spells. You probably should run 3 Chaos Form and then 2 Advanced Ritual Art. I found that it's better this way. If I run 3 Advanced Ritual Art, I usually end up bricking a lot more, and that's just not what I'm trying to do here. When you brick with this deck, it's just there's not a whole lot you can do, especially if you're running if you're playing against a lot of hand traps. The best thing that you can run in your side deck, which I haven't really adjusted in some time, I do need to adjust, is you want 3 Call by the Graves. If you're playing against a heavy hand trap deck, you have to have 3 Call by the Graves because it's the only thing that's going to really help you if you're going against a lot of like Ash Blossoms or Droll or any of that stuff. Droll will just ruin you. Droll and Lockbird will completely just stop this. So yeah. And Effect Veiler too. Any of those cards, any of the big hand traps, you're just screwed. Um, and that's pretty much it. I would really do an extra deck breakdown. You really don't have to. If you want to do any of this, if you want to go for these, you can. This one, oh my god, yeah, the Twin Burst Dragon. It's good. It's fun when you can do it. So yeah, you can make 2 attacks, and basically it can't be destroyed by battle. It's great if you want to out big boss monsters. So if your opponent has like a big beater on the field with like 4,000 or more, 5,000 or more attacks. So Red Eyes Dragoon, for example, if you already spent its negate, then you have this card on the field. You can attack it once. It won't be destroyed, but you can basically banish the Dragoon. So that'll get rid of it, and then this card can attack again. So you basically get 2 attacks, one which will out the boss monster on your opponent's side of the field, and you can run as many of those as you want. Also, Azure Eyes for some protection, Spirit Dragon also for some protection, and negate also, and reincur some other resources. And the Neo Galaxy Eyes, I never use any of these. I've maybe used it once as a beater, and that was pretty much it. The same thing for the Cipher Blade and literally all of the other the Galaxy Eyes. Number 107. I've never used any of these cards in any duels. I've never needed to use them, so I usually just use them. If I do use them I use them for Zarborg. And that'll take care of my opponent's extra deck usually. I might leave them a Link Karibo or whatever, whatever. And their nightmares and stuff like that, but they won't be able to link off into any of into their big boss monsters. So like this is great. Borreload, Sword and Borreload, all of the Boral Dragon boss monsters, they will be a problem for this deck also. So if you can out them using this, and your opponent will have a way to FTK you from their extra deck at least. So that's pretty much it. Also, the side deck, 1 Day of Peace for draw damage. If you feel like if you break your game going game 1, then you feel like you need to kind of play a slow and patient game. Take your time. This is a good card to run. Also, I love Storming Mirror Force. I wish I had a deck that I could just main it in. Maybe I'll do like a burn deck or something later and do a preview on that, but this is a good side deck card for this deck. Really, all the trap cards for this deck are good for the side deck. These are definitely good game 2 or 3 cards. Yeah, Ultimate Creature of Destruction. I don't know why I have this in here. I don't think this has ever really like benefited me at all. So yeah, these are just kind of disruptive cards, and actually Solemns. I should probably do some tweaking here and then add more Solemn cards to the lineup here, because Solemn just comes in clutch now so much. It's really good card. I think I remember the very first time I ever played against Solemn Judgment, and when I was in like middle school, and it was just like, wait, what? That's such a wow. Okay, yeah, it just completely stopped what I was trying to do, and I just remember it so much because it was just like a wow. It just says no, you can't do this. So, and that's such a powerful thing, especially today in today's format, because sometimes you just have to stop your opponent. So. But, I mean, that pretty much does it for this deck review, y'all. Thank you so much for checking this out, everyone. Like I said before, when I get the physical cards, again, I'm going to do a in-person deck review, and
I'll upload that so y'all can see. This deck really is solid. It performs so well in the current format right now. I highly recommend it. It's so much fun just to slap the big max and even the baby max out there, just to see what your opponent's reaction to it is. It's very rewarding, and plus too, it's blue eyes. Who doesn't love blue eyes? But anyway, it's getting even more windy out here now. Sorry for the recording conditions, y'all. I don't have a dedicated space. I'm working on that. Also, I'm working on getting better recording equipment, better laptop, etc. I had one. Unfortunately, I was being a klutz and decided to spill water on my brand new MacBook, and yeah, it is no longer a thing. So, but until then, until I get a new one, I'm just gonna keep trying to crank it out here for y'all, and yeah, we'll just go from there. Please follow, subscribe, like this video, share it if you really liked it. And that helps me out so much. And also drop suggestions off. I love hearing what y'all have to say. If you want me to build and pilot a new deck, I could do a review on another one. I have several built. I'll give y'all some options on which ones I wouldn't mind showing off. And yeah, if you just want to see some footage or whatever y'all want to see me do, let me know below, and I'll go through it with y'all. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one.